Hi.
And we are live. Hello, everybody. This is James. And as always, I have Melanie joining me. We are talking with Erin Douglas today. She has her private tutoring company. We'd love to spread the word about her because she's doing great work, has nothing but phenomenal reviews. But as always, before we get started, we want to welcome everyone. And if you would like to join us in the upcoming weeks, please let us know. We would love to have you on. Reach out to me or Melanie. And as well, we do this live so you can interact. If you have any questions, please type them in and we'll make sure that Erin gets them and we will get them answered for you. If you are watching this pre-record or recorded, sorry, um, all of her contact information, her websites, phone number, it's all in the comments. So check it out and you can reach out to her yourself. All right, so let's get to it. How you doing today, Erin?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. We are happy to have you on. We know that children have always needed as much help as they can with their education, and COVID has just made it tougher. So I'm sure what you're doing is even making a larger effect than usual. You want to go ahead and start to talk about who you are and how you got into this?
Yeah, so my name is Erin Douglas. I was a teacher in the classroom for 10 years. And then after my second son was born, my husband and I kind of decided that I would stay home with him. That went on for a couple months, and I kind of realized I really missed my job. Like anyone that knows me knows I would wake up every morning amped to go to work. I was pumped to go to work. My husband would always make fun of me. He was like, I've never seen someone get up at 5 a.m. excited to work, and that was just me, and that's who I am. I have a passion for teaching kids and watching them grow. And when I wasn't in the classroom, I was just I'm gonna put a little ad out on Facebook and see if someone needs some summer tutoring. Right. So that's just where it started. I had 3 or 4 families, 2 of which are still with me 5 years later, that reached out, and I started at the Prince Frederick Library, just meeting them a couple hours a week. And then that kind of grew more and more. And from 5, I was working with 20, then I was working with 30 students a week. And then COVID hit. And the library was like, you cannot come here. So I was like, okay. And my husband said, I've got this. He turned our basement into this mini classroom for me. And I was tutoring kids out of our house downstairs. And I know that sounds terrible. Kids were just coming in our basement. But all my parents that I work with know that I'm very jokey. I'm really silly with their kids. And they kind of, again, continue to share and grow. And then by last summer, I hired 2 teachers to work with me because I was I really feel this is going beyond 20 to 30 kids. Yeah. And last summer, I went to 45 kids a week. These are all hour-long, one-on-one sessions. And summer was over, and then my name spread more, and then I had a wait list. And I was like, I need to grow. I got to move out of my house. My neighbors probably hate me for having this many cars a week at my house. They were coming in and out. So then I found this space. I am at 65 Duke Street in 211A, right in Prince Frederick. And I love it. Everyone that's in this building has been nothing but nice to me. And I have anywhere now from 100 to 130 kids a week that come through my door.
Wow.
And I have a staff of 13. They are either certified educators or they are working towards becoming an educator. All lessons are planned and prepped by me. I have my master's in education as well as an emphasis in leadership. I am a Maryland State certified educator, and I love what I do. I love being in the classroom, but being a tutor and working one-on-one, you really get to see the growth with each child, and you get to know them more on a personal level than just your class of 20 to 35 or whatever kids you have. You know them, you might know they have a brother or a sibling, but with these kids that come through, you really know every single thing going on, and they start to get to know you. And I encourage all my tutors to form personal relationships, which they do. And it's just a lot of fun, a lot of jokes going around, a lot of just laughing. Sometimes parents are in the weight room, they're like, what is going on? And I'm like, we're having fun. We're having fun. I'm big with games and learning and hands-on opportunities. I do not have any technology in my tutoring center. Every student has the opportunity to learn through, how they learn best. So either that's hands-on, either that's, listening through music. But we always make sure we individualize our lessons to meet their learning style and obviously their needs. But that's, just a little background on where I've come from and where I am now.
That's cool, because what a lot of people don't realize is like all kids don't learn the same.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times school systems are programmed in a certain capacity for the majority. And then there's the minority. And I don't mean the minority in the sense of people. I mean minority in learning abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how they learn. And usually the children who learn different are the ones who struggle the most, but it doesn't make them dumb kids. They just, that the program doesn't allow the time or the effort of the teacher to be able to give that kid that what they need and modify a lot of times. So having somebody like you to be able to teach them, they can go back into that classroom and do it their way and then excel and not feel inferior, which is, what you see a lot of times, which is great.
Yeah. That's really big for me, is that I have both lenses, because I was the teacher in the classroom. So I understand their struggles, the paperwork requirement, the grade requirement, the teacher-parent communication requirement, to where they probably realistically like 15 to 20% of their time can actually be spent teaching because of all their workload. So I have the understanding of that, which then gives me the flip side of when they come to me, I don't have the grades. I don't have, all of the extra paperwork that has to be submitted through my school. With parents, I have that one-on-one communication. We start with a baseline assessment, and then I provide updates every so many weeks to show growth or gain with what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit more leeway with how I'm teaching and how fast I need to go with what I'm teaching. In the school system, like you were saying, the mandates of we're going to spend a week on this math standard. If their kid doesn't get it, it's like they're kind of in this juggling phase, where if they're here, we can have that opportunity to spend a little more time on what they're struggling with.
Yeah. And, I kind of know a little bit about this because my sister kind of does something similar. She's actually has a master's in early childhood education as well. But she's homeschools. So, but her and I had a conversation today about my kid, and he had a B, like his first B. And he's like so torn up over it. And we're like, dude, it's okay. Like you did the best you could do. And your teacher's really hard grader. And she went through this whole thing. And she's like, gosh, I wish I don't give grades. On my tutoring, I don't give grades either. She was like, because like they all learn at different levels and I don't want them to feel bad. And that's the whole purpose. Like, every kid comes in at a different level and every kid leaves at a different level. And if they started off at getting 2 of the concepts and they leave getting 5 of the 7 concepts, that's a win. That's a complete win. So that's why I was like, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, it is. And it's so hard when parents, because in society today in general, like I'm a mom of 2 boys that are 8 and 5, and it's very easy to fall into that trap of comparing your kids academically, especially to other kids and where they are. And I always let parents know, like, that is not what we're doing here. That is not what I'm doing. We can say where kids should be, but if I have a student that wasn't reading anything 12 weeks ago and now is making gains and reading, smaller passages, maybe not the level they're supposed to be at, but they're making those gains, then that's progress and that's growth. And that's what I'm always looking for. And I strive for with every kid that I work with.
So I think that's fantastic. What age groups do you tutor?
So I work with as young as, actually just left my door a few minutes ago, preschool. So entering kindergarten to do kindergarten prep all the way up to 12th grade. I also offer some college support with certain courses, SAT prep. And just recently this year, I've reached out and I help friends. I call everybody a friend, but they're grown-ups and they're working on passing local 602, local 26. So the tests that they have to take, the exams, and a lot of these guys and women that are taking these tests have been out of high school for like 2 or 3 years. And they're like, I don't remember any of this math. Yep. So I've helped them, and I've helped about 5 or 6 people actually pass the local 2 test in the past couple months. So
that's great. So it's not just not limited to children. Like it's limited to people gaining gainful employment within the community of something that they want to do and maybe just need to brush up on some skills. James, maybe she would help you get the Virginia license.
I already asked her for tutoring on technology because I'm struggling over here.
So anyway, so give us an idea how much it costs for your services. And I know it probably is on a scale of how many times and how long and a lot of things probably.
Yeah. So right now I'm sessions one-on-one are $45 a session, but I offer a special right now. If you sign up for more than one session a week, it's $40 a session. And I say session, that's an hour. And they're all one-on-one unless the friend has indicated they want to sign up for like a support group, because I offer smaller groups. Like I have a kindergarten support group. And if you're in a group, those are only $25 a session. And those maximum groups amounts are 6 kids per session. So it's not an over like a classroom size, but it's still more than just that one-on-one. And then I also offered a summer special for friends who wanted to continue throughout the summer, because I still have a list of friends that are, and that was a package that I sold for $400.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
When I checked out your Facebook, it looks like you're holding a summer camp and did a spring camp as well.
So I, on certain weeks, will offer multiplication boot camps. I've done reading camps. We've done targeted writing camps. I have partnered with someone in the community, Audrey Whalen, and she is doing a creative play shop camp. She's well known in the community for painting houses. She went around during COVID and offered to draw and then watercolor your house. And a lot of people loved it, including myself. She did my house. So I thought that was an awesome opportunity for kids to be able to draw and paint their house. So we're trying to keep the learning fun, and then kids are going to write about their piece that they draw to kind of like keep the arts within education. But all my sessions also in the summer are going to still continue with one-on-one sessions as well.
Oh, that was James. See, definitely need your technology.
I can share too. My services are mostly in person. However, I work with friends as far as St. Mary's County, Anne Arundel County, and for them, the drive was a little too much. So I offer online tutoring as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Some families are turned away by that, but then once they try it, they're like, oh, this is totally different than COVID education. And I'm like, yes, because we're not in a full classroom and your child is still getting that one-on-one attention.
Yeah. So we hopped out of school at COVID and went to an online school. And the online school, they've been doing it for 20 years, right? So they had already figured it out, kind of thing. And we were always comparing, like, we shouldn't compare, but we were seeing what our friends were doing with their children and what our child was doing. And it was like he went back into school in person and didn't miss a beat, where other kids had lost. You know what I mean? They lost some of the grounds because the schools did the best that they could do. Let's be honest. They just were thrown into it, right? And they were just like, oh gosh, what do we do? It's no poo-poo on anyone for that. But I was a tutored child, so I appreciate the tutor side of it. I had a terrible second grade teacher, and lost confidence in school and in learning, right? Because you were always behind. And so I think I did tutoring for a couple of years. I think all the way through elementary school, matter of fact, if I recall correctly. And it's definitely something that people shouldn't be ashamed of, because it can just give you that like boost that you really need and that confidence that you need that you're not finding within your arena of the classroom, because the classrooms are kind of big.
Yeah. They're a lot larger nowadays than they were probably even just 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And like when I'm working with students, I know you had mentioned confidence. That's one of like my big hitters. Like I want to boost your confidence. I want you to feel comfortable to not only do it here, but to do it on your own in class or at home independently. Yeah. And I also agree so much with the stigma on tutoring. I have parents, they'll bring their middle school child in, the high school child, and they'll look at me and they're like, and I'm like, all right, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you hate being here? 10 being like the worst. And they're like, 10. I'm like, all right, I tell kids, I'm like, give me one session, one chance, just give me a chance. And they come and they end up just loving me, of course. But like, I can speak for some of my high school friends. Like we've formed relationships where they'll reach out to myself or tutors and be like, hey, I need an extra session this week. I am struggling so bad on this topic. And the parents are like, what do you do? I'm like, to be honest with you, what I do is I don't treat kids like kids. Yeah. I treat them like adults, humans. If I'm having a bad day, I will straight come to a kid and just say, it's terrible. Today's bad. And it's crazy when you just tell a kid that. They're like, well, tell me what happened. And you tell them, and then they open up to you and you kind of play off of that. And from there, because they feel so comfortable, they really will work with you and do anything with you. that you're trying to get them to learn or work on or focus on. And that window of learning just expands so much.
Yeah.
Just by being open with them and comfortable and telling them like, today stunk. And they're like, tell me what's up. So
yeah, well, it's hard because like in the classroom setting, like in school and stuff, like you said, the teachers really have such a small time frame that they can actually be an educator, versus meeting criteria and checking boxes that they want to connect. They just don't have the opportunity to connect. But the other side is we're conditioned as a society to comply and conform. And reality is that like you treat them like like they're just who they are, right? Just as a person, right? You don't look at them and be like, that's a second grader, I'm going to talk to them this way. And I agree with that. We've always done that with our kid, like kind of a thing. And people are like, you talk to your kid that way? I was like, why not? He's a human. Like, teach them, like, don't dumb them down. They're smarter than you really actually think. Like, give them credit for being smarter than what you are giving them credit for being. You're also conditioned on how to talk to them that way.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I'll have kids come in with like different sports jerseys and we always tease them, or we kind of play around with like the banter of that. And like, I know, don't make fun of me, but like, because of my husband, I'll blame him. We're Indianapolis Colts fans, and like
Show's
every
over.
kid,
Just
every kid. I married it. I was not raised by it. Every kid that will come in like during football season, like, Miss Erin, your team's the worst, and they'll like tease me about stuff. But it's like it's those little moments that they're making a connection with you, but then they're even eager or excited to come. And I do something else that I thought of, I don't know, a couple months ago. I was like, kids need more of an incentive to learn, to focus. So we do these things called Douglas Dollars as well. And if you show up, you get a Douglas dollar. If you try hard, you get a Douglas dollar. And then after 10 Douglas dollars, you get to go to our cart, which is our store. And we have like nothing crazy, but like V-Buck gift cards, Robux, little Pop-Its, different things. And the kids are like, $2 more and I am there. And it's like, all right, let's go. So
we don't realize those
little motivators.
prompts.
Yeah, like
they don't need a lot, right? They just want to be recognized for their effort, just like we do as adults.
Exactly. And I said to parents, I'm like, you go to work because you want to get paid, obviously. So the kids, they're working, and I feel like they should earn something for putting that effort and work in as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I just want to circle back, because I'm glad both of you talked about it, was the confidence, because you see that in a lot of your reviews. They say that, you didn't just teach them the right structure, how to do stuff, but you gave them the confidence. And I was a bad kid in school, but it was more just being disinterested. It was just boredom. And when you do fall behind a little bit and you're in a group of 30 or 40 and most people are getting it, that destroys your confidence, and you're too embarrassed to ask those questions. So you're just like, yeah, I got it. Like, let's move on. I don't want to be made fun of. But that's why tutoring is such a good tool, because it is one-on-one. Like, I'm not embarrassed in front of one teacher, but I might be embarrassed in front of 30 of my friends if I'm not keeping up because of whatever reason.
Yeah, that's one of the big things. And like when parents come back to me, like I always say, like that's probably, I mean, it's not probably, it is. It's number one in my business that you do have that confidence, because let's be honest too, kids can be really cruel sometimes. And when you have that confidence barrier broken down, it takes some time to rebuild that. So if a child comes to me for X amount of sessions or however long, and they leave and they're confident in now reading in front of a class, my teacher's like, I'm just giving an example. Hey, James, read paragraph 4. They're not like, okay, I'm reading paragraph 4. Let's go. And I'm going to tell you all about it. So that's huge for me when parents say like, hey, they went to school and the teacher noticed how confident they are, how happy they are. And I want education to obviously be something they're confident in, but also make it fun. I'm really about making it fun, with all the mandates. And I'm sure with having kids in school, you guys have seen there's testing galore in school, and that's no fault of any educator. It's just what they have to do now. And I'm really big on giving kids the opportunity to make the learning fun in everything that we do. I try to put games in everything we're doing. And I'm really big on that. And my kids, I can tell they play off of that and they appreciate that. And it's not just sitting there.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge. A kid's environment really dictates how they show up and how they play the game. Yeah. And my kid goes to a private school, and I look at that and I'm like, we talk about this often. I've talked about the team too, because I believe environment's important, not just as a kid, as an adult.
Yeah.
But his environment is very much of a community. And it is so different than like a public school setting. Like I told him when he went to middle school, I was like, we're going to put you in public school. And he's like, no. And it was just like, I mean, he doesn't know what it is, right? He's never been in a public school. I'm not knocking public school, just kind of how the path we chose.
Yeah.
But the environment is what's so important because, and I say that because I see the difference between him and somebody else that's not in that type of a setting. And it makes me sad because every kid should have that setting. Like we shouldn't have to pay for extra for him to go somewhere to have that setting. And every kid should have that. It should just be given. But it's not. So then we have people like you to provide that, to show them that, hey, learning is a group effort and learning is something that you can be supported with. And because you didn't get it the first time, you're not dumb. Like it's okay, right? Let's just figure out how to make it work for you. So kudos to you, because that's like most tutors that people think. And this is the envision when they say tutor, is you're going to show up in a space and the tutor is going to be like, here's your work, do it. And then there's going to be a little instruction. And then at the end of the time, it's like, good job, bad job, whatever, kind of like school, right? That's kind of the visual you get when you think of tutor. So it's so fun to hear you say, like, you make it fun. You have a lot of banter with the kids. You make it an environment that they want to be in, because they're going to take that and that's going to translate back into the classroom. And then other people will see that and they'll have the confidence then to help somebody else,
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned what kids picture, because like my older friends are really honest and they were like, Miss Erin, when I first met you, I thought my mom was taking me like to some weirdo's house, some like creep, and they were just going to be like, do you know what you're, and they make these like voice impersonations. I'm like, what do you all watch where you get this idea of a tutor? I'm like, no, I'm going to be really cool, probably the best thing ever, and you're going to have a blast. Like that's just what's going to happen. And it's funny because they have described in their like vision of what they thought it was going to be, and it's pretty similar to that. A lot of creepiness they think is going to happen. But I also want to piggyback off of your conversation with creating that environment. I have a lot of families who have also chosen to just homeschool. And I offer homeschool support during the summer as well as the school year. And that's in small group and one-on-one. And you can see a difference in kids in their path that they've chosen, whatever works best for their family. But you can tell whatever a family has chosen does work best for their family. Whether it be, I work with friends in private schools, public school, homeschool, and it's very evident of how your family dynamics are, of what works best for you.
Yeah.
There's no big thing right now, because school boards, I mean, you watch the meetings, they're insanely political. Parents are getting violent. And I have friends that have young kids, and I'm like, it's tough right now. If I had a young kid, I don't know what I would do. Like, I think I'd have to homeschool them just because of what's going on out there. And going back to tutors being creepy, I only had a tutor for a couple of months in high school, and it's exactly what we were just making fun of. Just some high school kid who cared less. They're just trying to make $20 an hour, $10 an hour, something like that. And then I'm sitting in their basement for a half an hour, and I'm like, this is even more useless than school. Like, now I just have a younger person not helping me. Like, and it was a creepy basement.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Erin, does your, when you're tutoring the kids, whatever age group it is, obviously you come from the education background, you were a teacher in the classroom. So is it something that you like kind of dive into where they are or where they would be in that age group? Or is it you take down with the subject that they're, or the hurdle that they're having? And then you work on that and then you build from that and follow them through where they are. How do you kind of structure that?
Yeah. So great question. I start with obviously speaking with the parent of what content they feel their child is struggling most in. And then I do a baseline assessment. So if it's for reading, I have baseline assessment materials and a program that I use for reading, same with writing, math. And then with social studies, science, more of like the, I don't want to say I guess we'll call them not as popular topics that friends would come for. Because most friends do come for reading, writing, or math. Those are my core subjects, or a test prep. And I always start with a baseline assessment. And then based on that, I develop customized weekly lessons to meet that child's needs. So when I say everything is literally customized, it is customized. Like I sit in here every day planning for all of my friends that come in the evening, and we look at what did they do well the week before from their focus area? Do we need to continue that? Can we move on to the next topic or idea with what they're struggling with?
Yeah.
And then I kind of go and grow from there. And parents will sometimes share information from the classroom and say, hey, this is what their teacher is saying. Or if they have an IEP or a 504, I always try to meet those accommodations here with my tutors and myself. So we're meeting their needs across the board and not just at school.
Okay.
And I've also sat in on a few parent-teacher conferences. I always tell parents, I don't work for the school system. Nothing that I do is for the school system. It's nothing against the school system at all, or any of the school systems in Southern Maryland. I think they're great. But I am being paid by the parent, and I want to advocate for that child. So that's really important to me and big for me to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will sit in meetings and I will have conversations with them and just kind of advocate on what, that's mine. And just kind of share, where we are in tutoring, and share notes or share things that we've worked on, and teachers kind of bounce back and forth and say, they might love something that we're using at tutoring that helps support that child, or vice versa. If they have something they're trying in the classroom, I'm more than happy to take that on and share it tutoring, whether it be a checklist or just something like a squishy ball to keep their focus, whatever works. And we all kind of work together. And I swear by the phrase, it does take a village. Like, you cannot do it alone. I could not raise my 2 sons by myself whatsoever. I need all the input, all the advice, and I accept it. And I take it all. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because James says, like, if he had kids, he would homeschool them. James.
I don't know.
COVID hit.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, I think someone was going to die in my house. It was me, Shad, or Grayson. I'm not sure which one, because we could not do it. We couldn't do it. He wouldn't listen to us. It was the worst. And then we hired somebody to come into our house and do the schooling with him, because we were like, oh my God. So like, if we had like an Erin type of situation, that would have been fantastic, right?
Yeah, I actually had friends come to my house. Like, I did a small group.
Yeah.
It was, I did a morning, because I don't know if you remember, they did AM, like it was like online AM and online PM. My son was starting kindergarten when the whole COVID happened. And I had kids come to my house, and I supported them with their online learning, because the parents were like, I'm driving myself crazy. I don't know what the program is, what they're logging on, what they're doing. And that was really helpful. And it was fun. I had fun.
Well, I think it was also good in a sense, because I feel like half the conversation during COVID was, I'm trying not to kill my kid, because they're not used to them being home as much. And I mean, that just shows you what those teachers are going through on a daily basis. Not just your kid, they have 25, 35 more of them. And then all of a sudden you have the teacher meeting and you're yelling at the teacher. And it's just, I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and they're just so underappreciated, and they get blamed for stuff they shouldn't be taking blame on. And so, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm glad I don't have them at the moment, because it's a weird world at the moment. Yeah. COVID kind of turned everything around, but I think you're right. I think between homeschooling, not just the time. I mean, most parents, both of you have jobs. You don't have the time to do it. And then you almost get a little more respect from a good teacher. And I mean, if you have a great teacher, which I only have 3 from high school all the way through kindergarten that I remember as if yesterday, because they did make a big difference in my life. And they were there to support me, not just, here's your work, shut up and do it. And then if you don't do it, you fail. Like, I had out of, what do you have, 7, 8 teachers a year? So close to 100 teachers, 3 of them are 3% of them that I actually remember and made a difference in my life. So that one-on-one.
Yeah, and I have some kids that I taught when I was in the classroom, whose parents have seen that I've opened my business and reached back out, and I'm working with them now, like tutoring, and they remembered me. And that's something that was really important to, I wanted to be remembered as making obviously a positive, impactful impression on every student that I worked with. And that was, you could see even in my own education, like going through, there's certain teachers, I was just like, when will this year be over? It's never ending. And you didn't want to go to school. And I always want kids to feel like when they're coming to tutoring, they want to come here. They want to be here, and that we make them happy.
Yeah. That's going to be the most rewarding part, because I know you're kind of still fairly new to it, but 15, 20 years from now, you're going to have adults coming up to you like, hey, Mrs. Douglas, I remember you. And I mean, that happened to me with Miss Davis. She was my English teacher in high school and had a great relationship with her. And I still talk to her for years after high school. She recently passed, but like when I'd run into her randomly, it was like running into like an aunt that you haven't seen. Like we talk for half an hour and that relationship never goes away. So you are making a huge difference for a lot of kids. And when you get older, which none of us want to do, you're going to be remembered and loved by a lot of people.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
Well,
you.
I think education is one of those things that is, like you said, James, underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
The expectation is set very high, but there's not a lot of appreciation for the people who actually make it work and make these kids thrive. And it goes unseen, the ones who don't really lend to the betterment of children. Like they're just there to like get the paycheck. Even though it's not the best paycheck, it's still just a paycheck to some people.
Yeah.
And so it's important to be able to recognize people who are dedicating their lives. Because I mean, let's talk about it. People don't get paid a lot of money in education, right? But these kids are our future, and so they and we want them to go out and thrive and do well. Speaking of, do you do anything with like GED testing or helping people? I shouldn't say kids, helping kids or adults get their GED.
Yes, I've actually helped 2 friends get their GED to this day. That's something that I started back in September.
Nice.
So I'm very proud of that because I feel like sometimes being in the classroom is one overwhelming. And when you are getting close to 18 years old, 16, you're still a kid, but you feel like you're an adult. Yeah. And sometimes they make choices to just not continue and to stop. And perfectly fine. That's their choice at that time. But then later on realize, hey, kind of needed what my mom said I needed. Got to go back and get that. And so that's another like super rewarding thing because the one, I'm going to call him a friend because I don't want to mention his name, but that I worked with to help get his GED. He's now working in DC at a law office in a law firm and is pursuing his career to move further. So for me, that was like nothing wrong with any profession whatsoever. I think every job's a great job anytime you're getting paid. But he went from, working down the street at like, I think he was working at like a local grocery store. And he was like, I really want to move up and I can't. They said I have to have my high school diploma. And so when I helped him pass that, that was awesome. That was a great feeling.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And a lot of times with GED, people always think it's something bad as to why like the kid was terrible and they dropped out of school and they were unruly. There's a lot of life situations that occur that people just don't ever understand. We see a lot of this in real estate and a lot of, things like that. So it's one of those things where that's why I asked that question. Cause then if we come across people who are looking for someone to aid and help them be able to study for that, then we know where to go. Yeah. Because there's so many life situations that, we only see what we're living most of the time, right? We only see our world and our friends' world. And beyond that, and we meet so many people every day, every year with housing that are in some really, really, really tough situations and have to make some really hard life decisions. And sometimes things like education is this something that doesn't get any precedence, and then it comes up and I need to help out. So.
Yep. And that's why I feel it's so important to get to know students on a personal level. I mentioned we'll talk about sports and different things like that. But on like a really heavy note, some of these kids are going through parents getting a divorce and they want to come here before they start their session. I'll give them 5 minutes to vent. And they really do. They vent. They talk about it. They let it out. They just get it off their chest. And in a classroom, unfortunately, again, with the time constraints, they don't have that opportunity to know that or to know what's going on, or their grandfather passed and they're devastated and they're not as confident or comfortable to go to their parent and say, hey, this is something that's bothering me. So they might mention that here to myself or one of my tutors. Yeah. And I want that to always be known that this is a safe place to share that before you're working. Obviously, we're here to learn, but like you shared, friends have things going on behind the scenes that were like face value. We just see what's going on. And when they open up, it's like, whoa, like, you've moved from this house to this house, or you've gone here to here, and you've got a lot going on. Let's dial that down, and then let's move forward with the learning, because those things are more important. And it's just life, and we all go through it. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's tough. But I think for a kid to know that I also go through tough times and stuff's not always great and sunshine rainbows is really important, because then they're like, oh, all right, Miss Erin, I got you. Like, we're good. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Everybody has these tough times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Awesome.
love that you said that, because that goes back to mindset. And I mean, so you're a tutor / therapist, so you're getting two services when you hire Erin. And I mean, Melanie's
The
a
pricey one.
big person about mindset, and we have a
I am.
very close group that we work with, our real estate group, and we always joke. We have our monthly meeting, and at the beginning, we always joke about who's going to cry this week, because it's not always business. We start talking about good things, bad things. We start talking about our lives, and I mean, this is men and women from 22 years old to, I won't go how
60.
old they get, because I don't want to get them upset at me, but
Almost
almost
60.
almost every week
Yeah.
someone cries at the meeting. And I mean, it's a close group, and it's like a family. And then once you get that out of the way, you can focus on, like you said, the classwork, because
Yes.
not only these kids going through divorce, sometimes these kids don't even have a good parent to talk to, like not one, not two, like nobody. Like some
Like
kids are
nobody.
raising themselves practically and have
Yep.
nobody to have a real conversation with besides a teacher that doesn't have time.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of times in the location that we live, because let's face it, the average income in Calvert County for two parents is like $196,000. That's
Yeah.
the average income. So when you live in an area that's the income, now that doesn't mean that there's no low income, because there is. But the point of the matter is that people don't realize sometimes that low income situation occurs in how it works. And parents who are in drugs, parents who aren't present, kids being raised by grandparents or even neighbors, and they're not getting the support of the perfect households that we always think, exists,
Right.
especially in an area like we are. And so understanding that and seeing that, and then being able to point them in a direction if they can get the support to be able to come to a session like with you, or 2 or 3 is minimal, then they'll get the good grades, so that when they get to graduate high school, they'll be able to get into a college, get some grades, get some, and then be able to get out of that situation, like be able to help themselves at that point.
Yeah. And that's a big reason also why I make my tutoring affordable. I know I mentioned it's $45 session.
Yep.
I priced it based off of, and I'm not downing any like large company or anything at all, but when you reach out to like Sylvan Learning Center, Huntington Learning Center, they want you to buy these like $1,000 packages. And I was like, I need tutoring to be affordable for all, because I was once a stay-at-home mom when I left the classroom and we were living off of my husband's income. And these are things that I would love to have provided for my older son, Colton. But at the time it was like, we have a limited budget and I have to stick to that for right now. And that's just the way things were. And when I look at students that have needs, or, I know I can reach this kid. I know I can get him to get this. I work with every parent. I make payment plans. If they're like, Miss Erin, this is really expensive for me. I only get paid this, this, and this. I work with them. I'm all about working with my families. That's the beauty of also not being a corporation and just owning my business by myself, that I'm able to work more with the community and help that and just make tutoring affordable for all. Because I want everyone that needs the help, wants the help, to be able to come and receive the help here.
Nice. I love that you say community, because that's kind of what we focus on. And I feel like that's what this world has lost in the past 30, 40 years. Like community just seemed to go away, and everyone's so focused on their individual self and just struggling to survive half the time. So, I mean, can't blame everybody, but bringing the community back together, having good people like you, because like you said, most of these kids that actually need your tutoring, parents can't afford it, even if they know that it exists. If they want to do it, they can't afford to do it.
And off topic.
Say it again.
Oh, sorry. We have single parents too, and it's like they're like, I really want to help, but they're single parents and they're one income, so that's challenging. And then just off the community, we did a coat drive. I partnered with Calvert County Public Schools. Next year, I'd like to do it independently to kind of reach out to more school systems. But the coat drive was outstanding. I mean, it was hundreds of jackets, hundreds of hats, gloves, scarves, snow boots, snow pants. But we did it with the school system and went there and kind of like separated. And then we went to the schools and delivered. And that's a big thing that I want to do, that I feel like I now have the platform to say, hey, what else can I do with the community and how else can I help? So I'm doing a couple national nights out, night outs. how would you say that?
Yeah, National Night Out.
National Night Out. Yeah, I'm doing a couple of those. The tutor speaks well. I'm doing a couple of those.
We're supporting you.
Thanks, guys. And I'm excited to do that because I want to be able to offer my services and show parents that when you hear the word tutor, it's not like something crazy, astronomical outside of the budget. Like I want to work with you and help you and be there for your child.
Yeah. I want to circle back around to what James said about the community. And this is why we started this whole thing that we're doing. Because we're a local business in the community, but we focus on community, we focus on people. And it was a way for us to reach out to people like you, forge relationships, and to be able to then to give your information over to people that we work with that need, and to be able to support the local businesses, but also bring this to the community around us so people would also know where to find it. Because a lot of times people don't know where to look for certain things that they need. Mm-hmm. And so we thank you so much for sharing all of the information that you shared today. We're doing a fantastic thing for these families around us. And it's not easy, but you love it. It's your passion. So you found your true passion, right? And you're just capitalizing on it. And that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys just inviting me to do this, to spread the word on what I do and just kind of share what I do here and what's going on. And I just appreciate it so much. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to thank you. We're just making videos and you are raising America's future. So it's all on you.
Doing some video. That's what we do.
We need you to save America, Erin. Save America.
Good luck.
One kid at a time, right?
We'll do one kid at a time.
All right. Well, we've been about almost 42 minutes. We always say we're going to cut off at 30 minutes, but we always have such good conversation. We just keep it going. All right. So Erin, just hang on. We're going to go ahead and hop offline. Thank you everybody for joining us for Listen Up Maryland with Melanie and James Armel. And look up Erin, look up her business. If you know somebody that needs help, please, her information is in the comments. Share it, like it. What do we say? Share, like, subscribe.
Love it.
Know.
Love it.
Yeah, there you go. Love it.
Yeah,
make it happen. And we'll see you all next week. James, who's next week? Do you know? Because you know I always ask you.
Going week by week. Everyone's scheduling around, so I'm just kind of picking them. I'll reach out today and get the next one because it's just been too hard to go farther out. I'm just constantly rescheduling with people.
It's okay. It's good.
But
all right.
It could be you. That's who's next. It could be you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Till next week. Have a great one. Bye.
See ya.